Silicon Valley VCs ask regulators to go easy on ICO regulations. Russian state media claims that they blocked Telegram because of their ICO and not because of private keys. IOTA unveils an electric vehicle charging station in the Netherlands. Bolivar to Bitcoin market surpassed $1 million as Venezuela pushes forward on the Petro. Roger Ver is willing to pay for a new moderator on the @Bitcoin subreddit. Kraken refuses to comply with the New York regulators, claiming that they are insulted by the requests. And in controversial news, Changpeng Zhao declares that Binance is not adding US dollar pairs anytime soon. We've got all your headlines mixed with some daily market analysis. I'm Elio Trades, and your FUD TV daily update starts now. Welcome back, FUD Nation. Just diving here in the total market caps, we can see that it doesn't feel a little bit like a bull run. Obviously, we're having this rise up here to the $370 billion mark. We were down in the 350s yesterday. And then if we go down to the 18th, 2 days ago, we were in the 340, 330 range. We've just been growing in it, not parabolically so, but nice, steady growth here. It feels like a nice growing here. I don't know if this is people steadily coming out of their buyer fatigue. What it is, it's definitely a little tax day surge here. But if we look back, I guess what I'm worried about, the only thing I'm worried about, and I don't want to cast any negative energy on this bull run, is I do just want to think about what happened in February, from February 6th all the way up until February 17th. There was like 2 weeks of unabated growth there. I guess there was a little pullback here, but we stayed up there as well. We got all the way up to the $500 billion mark. So I'm definitely seeing, we're hitting similar lows here, and then we're having a nice little spring off this sort of $270 billion mark. It was down here at the $279 billion mark. We sprung, made it all the way up to $500 billion. So we can make it hopefully up past this sort of 400 billion resistance, 450, and get up to that 500 range. But after that, we're going to definitely see there's going to be some tests here, so many tests along the way. But regardless, we're loving to see that this bull run is continuing. We're loving to see that the energy is continuing. We see Bitcoin with a 3% gain, and whenever Bitcoin goes up 3% like that, it's up above 8,500. That's looking good. Obviously, there's a few more support levels, but the big one that Bitcoin needs to get over before we can really call it an official crazy bull run here, where the bulls are really back in town, in my humble opinion, is still 12K or the 11.8 range. Ethereum, here we see with a 6% spike, Ripple with a 20% day, Bitcoin Cash with a huge day, 15.9%. Still Ripple leading the pack here, but EOS with a phenomenal day. Stellar continuing to trudge up here. Stellar's also done phenomenally. Obviously, Ripple and Stellar seem to have a very strong connection, and they're putting out very similar news. Obviously, Stellar came out with the news or all the news around IBM and their international banking partnerships, and all of that is being sort of cornered by Stellar. All of the sort of backbone of that infrastructure is Stellar Lumen. So that's huge bullish news. Obviously, IOTA with their charging station, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, they're having a nice little pump here. It's looking like the market's just having a really lovely update here. There's a ton of coins. There's nothing too parabolic here. Denticoin and Archain in the high 20%, but that's not too crazy in Cryptoville. So this is very positive news, especially seeing the number 3 coin and the number 5 coin as two of the top gainers. That means that we're gaining a lot of market cap when big coins like that go up. Hopping over to some news, we have word that VCs from Silicon Valley are doing their best to help regulators understand ICOs and potentially even have less restrictive regulations, potentially allowing for more of a flourishing of the ICO industry. I don't know if you guys have been keeping track, but it's really few and far between that there's any ICOs that are actually available for purchase for American citizens, or really for many people in general. There's been a lot of airdrops. There's just been a lot of sort of avoidance of the ICO space, I think out of fear of regulation. A little bit of understanding goes a long way when it comes to regulating what could be one of the most booming and impactful industries that's ever been created. As the Wall Street Journal reports, representatives from Andreessen Horowitz as well as Union Square Ventures met with high-ranking officials and U.S. Securities Exchange Commission's SEC on March 28th. Obviously, they're trying to talk about regulations here, and these are two of the biggest, most respected VCs in the Valley. They have a ton of capital to throw around, and they have a ton of power to throw around. So this is a phenomenal sign as we're seeing the big sort of tech guns come out here and defend crypto. If we get our technology world really united behind defending at least the possibility of good ICOs instead of stamping them out as potentially all fraudulent or too risky. So this is phenomenal, and ICOs really are the sort of gateway into innovation in this space. All of the biggest innovative projects have come out of ICOs, or most all of them. So besides Bitcoin, of course. The duo used the example of a Book of the Month club to say this would be a clear example of an inappropriate example for securities. It's just not a security to distribute books of the month through a tokenized system, and maybe it's a really efficient system. So they're sort of pointing out the catch-22 here of this is a really efficient way to do funding, but at the same time, it might run afoul of some securities law if they're overregulated and if they're not really understanding of what they're regulating. It's just a financial instrument, really, ICOs. It's an investment form. At the same time, there will be security tokens and tokens that would absolutely qualify as securities the way securities law is written. There's certainly going to be ones that don't. And for that reason, we're hoping that we can get some sensible regulation coming out of the SEC. It will be critical for the foundations of the American industry and really the whole crypto industry, because of the way American law is written, anything that Americans invest into sort of comes under American jurisdiction in certain senses. So it can really affect the crypto, despite it being in China or Singapore, if it really runs afoul of American law. And in a new twist of the Telegram tale, we have word that the Russian government actually did not block Telegram because of the lack of access to their encrypted keys or because of terrorism, but instead because of their ICO. Apparently, the $1.7 billion raise really sent a message and sent a little bit of fear that they might actually be able to establish a truly free, unregulated financial ecosystem. And that's exactly what Telegram is seeking to do. Having launched his own crypto, he will get a completely uncontrolled financial system in Russia, and this will not be Bitcoin for the marginalized. It will be simple, reliable, and uncontrolled. This is a threat to the security of the country. All the drugs, the cash, the organ trade will go through Pavel's crypto, and he will say, I have nothing to do with it. You should ban words. That's what the terrorists use. Apparently, this letter has been corroborated in its authenticity, though actually the person who supposedly wrote it has since denied giving any comments. This doesn't really give us any truth or fiction yet, but it's an interesting take at least. The Telegram ban went into effect on April the 16th, but it actually knocked out a ton of other internet services along the way. It was kind of a sloppy ban, but it's definitely one of the most exciting and interesting stories in cryptocurrency. We're seeing a tug of war between a huge cryptocurrency that's seeking to establish sort of an independent financial system and a government that really doesn't want that to happen. This is fascinating. We also have word that IOTA has rolled out some electric vehicle charging stations in the Netherlands. Elad NL, a solar and wind power fueled smart charging initiative by Dutch grid operators, has teamed up with IOTA for the maiden DLT fueled charging station for electric vehicles. The charging station is located in Abrams-Buiten, which is a business park test site open to the public where customers can access machine-to-machine charging, smart meter-like payments for parking, and energy they consume to power up their electric cars. Here is what the charging station looks like. I guess they're using a little mini car to show its potential here, but here's the charging station. Looks pretty simple, and this is cool. You know, this is more of the story of how we expect cryptocurrencies to be adopted. These are simple, efficient ways to manage resources and transfer funds. So we'll see many more examples of this, I think. And again, people are going to start using crypto in ways that they don't feel like they're really using crypto. They're just charging their car up, for example. And Boulevard of Bitcoin markets have been surging past $1 million in volume in anticipation and, I guess, preparation towards a crypto future for the country. Venezuela's economic situation has been rapidly declining over the last few years. On April 17th, Boulevard of Bitcoin trading eclipsed $1 million in value. Prices in Venezuela have been surging dramatically, with inflation of up to 450% in the first quarter of 2018 and over 8,900% over the last 12 months. Instead of addressing this problem, the government is focusing on introducing their own cryptocurrency, the petrodollar, which is backed by the country's oil reserves. And interestingly, it was awarded the Satoshi Nakamoto Prize in Russia, which is a little bit suspicious as there was word that essentially Russia was behind backing the creation of this coin in the first place as an attempt to undermine US sanctions. Again, this just shows that there's a huge interest in cryptocurrency and specifically Bitcoin as a reliable store of value and an investment vehicle and a way to fight against inflation. As countries start to really lose faith in their fiat currencies, they will turn to cryptocurrencies, and most likely they'll end up turning largely to Bitcoin. And Roger Ver is willing to pay $100,000 if they appoint a new moderator to the subreddit at Bitcoin. So we'll see if this is a media stunt or if Reddit actually takes them up on this and introduces a new moderator to the at Bitcoin sub. And Jesse Powell of the Kraken Exchange claims that the New York probe was insulting, and he refuses to comply. The New York Attorney General sent an inquiry to 13 different exchanges, including Kraken, essentially asking for a wide array of information, 34 points to be exact. The exchanges were only given to the beginning of May to assemble the information. In response, Jesse Powell had some very strong words for the regulators. When I saw this 34-point demand with the deadline 2 weeks out, I immediately thought, the audacity of these guys, the entitlement, the disrespect for our business, our time, the resource diversion for this production is massive. This is going to completely blow up our roadmap. And then I realized we made the right decision to get the hell out of New York 3 years ago, and that we can dodge this bullet. Powell continued, but when is it going to be enough for New York? We did all this once already, and you gave us the bit license. Why don't you try extracting the information from those businesses actually operating in your state? Kraken left New York because New York is hostile to crypto, and this questionnaire we received proves that New York is not only hostile to crypto, it's hostile to our business. He also criticized other exchanges for kowtowing to these probes and others like it. According to Powell, he's just saying what everyone's thinking. And in a cruel twist of fate, we have word that Binance is not actually announcing US dollar pairs, despite the rampant news over the last few weeks and even months that they would be. I mean, this is not new news to be correcting, so it's kind of surprising that we get this tweet from Changpeng Zhao literally in the last few hours saying, no, US dollar pairs are not really coming out and fiat pairs may be coming soon, but there's definitely no plan for that coming out right now. Let's go down and look at this tweet right here. While we can't predict the future, others keep attempting it on us. Both quote news are not accurate. We're working with banks to potentially support fiat, but no plans for USD in the short term. No XVG or XPR involved. Be careful around predictive quote crystal ball news. The thing that bothers me about this tweet is that we've actually known about this news for a while. This has been the story about CZ and Binance going to Malta, is that this is going to be extremely efficient and it's going to open up the world of sort of fiat pairings. This is not news, and this sort of backstep or this sort of retracement makes me think that maybe there's new pressure on the situation. I know that internally here on the FUD team, we've been talking about how Malta is going to get increasing pressure. If they just decide to really lone wolf it, they're going to get pressure from Europe. To me, I read this as a sort of retracement. I don't actually doubt that right now they're trying their best to get fiat pairings installed, but the reality is it might be a somewhat touchy political situation, or it certainly is. So we don't really know what the pace this is going at is, and we don't know if this might be some pressure from Europe maybe now put on Malta, or whether the US dollar pairs was fake news from the beginning. But I don't think this is an issue of fake news. I think this is more of an issue of CZ trying to handle a sort of delicate political situation and trying to give people the sort of low basement expectations, and then if it goes well, he'll surprise them with a big reward. Oh yeah, we're introducing it, and he's not going to telegraph it at all. Thanks for checking out the video, guys. If you're here at the end, you're the real FUD Nation. I know you are, so leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought about this video. As I told you, I'm reading all the comments. I'm going to go in and respond to all of them. I love reading them. It's really the highlight of my day. Thank you so much. Each and every day, you guys can make better and better comments. It blows me away. I love it. If you're new to this channel, you've got to subscribe. I'm Elio Trades. It's been real. I'll catch you next time.